Whoop.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Good to see you. We're getting ourselves lined up here.
I feel like we're the Three Stooges right now, trying to get set ready to go.
We're getting a little bit of late start, so I hope you were patient enough to stay on. But if not, maybe you'll see us afterwards. But tonight we have the great pleasure of welcoming Father Frank Rouleau. Maybe if you were viewing Mass, you might have seen him. But we just have a chance to have him introduce himself and say a little bit about who he is, especially how he, priesthood is his second career. So maybe just tell us a little bit about that, a little bit how he ended up being a priest, how he ended up getting into Haiti, and then just how St. Anthony's got involved, and now St. Louise. So, Father Frank, a very warm welcome. We're really happy to have you here.
Thank you, but I have a question.
Yes.
Which of us is Curly?
The Three Stooges.
Not me.
Not me.
Well, that leaves me.
Well, anyhow, glad to be here with you. My name is Father Frank Rouleau. I'm a priest of the Diocese of Norwich, Connecticut, assigned to our diocesan ministry in Haiti. We've been involved there for almost 40 years. And that initiative came from lay people in our diocese approaching the bishop asking what we could do to help the people of Haiti. And I myself have been involved with Haiti. I went down for the first time in 1999 to visit the month of August, which is the hottest month of the year. Wow. That was my introduction. Yeah. And then a year later, my bishop, Daniel Hart, asked me to go to Haiti to learn the language and then come back and develop a ministry with the Haitian people in the Norwich area. Since we had two large casinos, very large casinos, Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun, and at that time, you didn't need to speak English to get a job working in the kitchen or working in housekeeping. So we had community develop in our area, as well as concern for the people in Haiti.
So there are quite a few Haitians in Norwich.
There are. And then in 2010, in January of 2010, was a massive earthquake in Port-au-Prince, the capital of Haiti, in which up to 300,000 people died that afternoon. Many buildings collapsed because of the of poor construction. There hadn't been a hurricane in that area in over 100 years.
Wow.
So people were not prepared for it. And in fact, somebody told me the story afterwards of these two policemen, because everybody knew in a hurricane, you run into a building, you get out of the rain and the wind. These policemen stopped their car and ran into a building with the first tremors. And unfortunately, they died when the building collapsed. But their vehicle didn't have a scratch on it sitting in the middle of the street.
Gosh. So it hadn't had an earthquake in 100 years? There?
Right.
Wow.
And now we've just had two this year. In August, we had in the southern part of the country a 7.2 on the Richter scale. And just last week, a 5.1 aftershock in the same area.
So that earthquake in 2010 was in part what led St. Anthony's to even think about Haiti. So I think some of you may have heard. Hi, Ben. Good to see you. Thank you. Thanks for that. Welcome. Thanks for saying we all look good. You can go to confession later for lying, but that's
what do you mean? He's absolved.
So anyway, Molly Hightower was volunteering with Friends of the Orphans or Nuestros Pequeños Hermanos in the hospital that they have there, and the hospital collapsed and she was killed instantly. And her grandparents, John and Ed Hightower, were parishioners at St. Anthony's. And we were discussing we need to reach out to some community in the third world. And that's actually that earthquake and Molly's death led us to Haiti.
And that was as we were talking earlier, many people were involved in that on both ends. Certainly on the Haiti end, David Rothrock, who was working for Catholic Relief Services in Port-au-Prince, and JL and
Right. And there were just so many things like that that just kind of lined up. So there was Molly's death, we going to jail at what was then the missions office of the Archdiocese of Seattle. JL putting us in contact with David Rothrock and Catholic Relief Services, and then through that we met each other
At a conference in Washington, D.C., that CRS had put on for all the people involved with Haiti. It was one table, many partners.
So that was 10 years ago. This June it will be 10 years ago. I believe it was June. It was summertime anyway. So yeah,
At Catholic University of America.
it was an amazing conference. I remember being very moved by it. Being with the Haitian people, and the U.S. bishops and Haitian bishops being in that kind of context. It was the first time there was a meeting of that kind. So it was really exciting. It was a lot of enthusiasm.
Definitely.
So that led us to actually come in and visit you in Haiti. And I just have to say that to be able to, as a group of Americans coming to Haiti for the first time, to be able to, fly from Seattle, land in Port-au-Prince, and then to be able to, you're in a different environment altogether, culture, language, climate, everything. And to be able to at
See
least,
my smiling face.
that's right, and have a nice home to go to, get settled in, a nice meal, and just learn about the culture, the history of the area, just to get oriented in a safe, comfortable environment was really key and important. So the ministry that the Diocese of Norwich provides through what they call outreach to Haiti, whereas the sister parish relationship with St. Anthony's is standing with Haiti, it's just so important and so key. I think some people sometimes when they think, what, 10% of our donations goes to the Diocese of Norwich? Well, you would not want to go to Haiti by yourself. I can tell you that. And a ton of ministry that you provide.
We have 17 with your parish here. We now have 17 parishes twinned with us in the Port-au-Prince Archdiocese, and certainly with the Archbishop of Port-au-Prince being aware. He's the one who selects when people ask for a twin parish. He's the one that gives us a couple of possibilities to do that. So everything we do is in conjunction with the Archdiocese.
So, Father Frank, maybe if you wouldn't mind just talking to us a little bit about what really is you might say, the philosophy of parish twinning or sister parish relationships. What is that about?
Well, it's about accompanying it. Some of us are more blessed than others with material things here on earth. There are many twin parishes, not only with Haiti, not only with Latin America, but with Africa and with the Philippines and other places as well. It's all about accompaniment with our brothers and sisters, helping them, as St. Paul says, to build up the body of Christ here on earth. Many of them are lacking so many of the resources that we take for granted. And like our philosophy as Norwich Outreach to Haiti is to help Haitians, not to do things for people, but to help them so that they can do for themselves. We want to make them independent, not dependent on us. Some of the things are first in our scholarship program in the community we serve in Port-au-Prince, in the Christ the King section of Port-au-Prince. We've had 11 medical doctors graduate from poor families who no way would have had a chance to go to university or grad school. Not only medical doctors, but nurses and agronomists and engineers, as well as tradesmen, carpenters and electricians and plumbers. Because in Haiti, you have to finish high school before you can go what we call trade school. They call professional school. So our first doctor in 1999, I met him. He was a young policeman who wanted to be a medical doctor. With our assistance, he was able to do that. Today, he's one of 50 general surgeons in Haiti. And that's fine by itself. But he's also built a clinic in the poor neighborhood in which he grew up, where people have access to medical care without having to walk 5 or 6 miles and wait 3 or 4 hours to be seen. And beyond that, he's also built in another section of Port-au-Prince a brand new hospital with the aid of an organization in Hartford, Connecticut. It's a group of doctors, mostly out of St. Francis Hospital in Hartford. Medical aid to Haiti. So they have helped him get this program going, which provides, again, is focused on serving the poor, serving the poor. And there are so many. So often people come and say, I'm thinking of one priest who had broken his arm, and he said, "Father, can you give me $100 so I can go to the doctor and have him fix this?" Because down in Haiti, the private practice people want payment before they give service. And so many of the poor are excluded from services.
One of the things that I remember well is in our first visit to St. Anne's was they had received a vehicle, a Toyota Tacoma truck, for six-man cab type of truck. First vehicle in that area, and the vehicle arrived from the German charities, Catholic charities.
It's the German Bishops' Conference.
Yeah, and it was on the dock because there was the vehicle didn't have tires, it didn't have a license, insurance. So that was the first thing that St. Anthony's was able to provide. So the truck was able to be delivered, and was delivered while we were there, and it was just an incredible moment of joy. And it was not something that just benefited St. Anne's Parish School, but really the whole community.
Really, it's the ambulance for the community.
Yeah.
Anybody who gets sick goes to see Père Josue for transport down to the hospital in Tiguave.
Yeah. So if I remember correctly, I think some of the donations go to maintain that truck too. So
he's got to get new tires at least a couple of times a year.
Yeah.
Because of the volcanic rocks that just chew up the rubber.
Tires. Yeah. Yeah. So that was just, in fact, I have a picture in my room of that. It just was a great and exciting moment.
Shaking hands.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. And then even the school building, again, that's had such an impact on the larger community, hasn't it?
It really, really has. And without St. Anthony's involvement, there's no way that Digicel would have built a school up there in the mountains like that. But they knew that with the salaries being paid for the teachers and there was ongoing support, that this wasn't something that would fall apart in a year or two.
Yeah. And even if I remember correctly, too, I think it was one of the tropical storms that the building actually was a place of safety for people. I heard that story. I think that's true.
It's well-constructed buildings.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because obviously the tropical storms are something that happens quite often. And in fact, you might remember last summer that there was the assassination of the president. There was the earthquake that Father Frank mentioned. Then there was tropical storm Grace, which led Father Tom and I have a conversation, and then I said, well, gosh, Tom, if there's anything that we can do here at St. Louis to help, just let us know, thinking that he would say, oh, sure, thank you very much. But that wasn't it. He said, well, yes, there really is, because the school has been growing so much.
Yeah, the first of all, that tropical storm hurricane came about 4 days in the same place where the earthquake took place.
Yeah.
So more devastation in the same place. And Digicel built a school, the grammar school, and St. Anthony's has built provided the funds to build the kindergarten, the library, and the little kitchen to prepare the food, as well as the high school.
Wow. Yeah, it's an amazing commitment. So, Father Ben, you grew up at St. Anthony's, and you were aware of all these things, even though I think a lot of those years you were in the seminary already.
I was
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah, but I'm sure you were kind of aware of that and heard stories about it.
Oh yeah,
So-
definitely through the grapevine, known as Mom. So, all the different updates there and everything. But I remember I came back from, I think it was my first or second year, and Father Frank, I remember I met you briefly, and Père Jose as well. And there were a couple times in between seminary when I would be back at St. Anthony's, and you folks would be visiting, and of course here went to a couple of the dinners there and everything, the fundraising dinners, and never been to Haiti myself, but yeah, definitely have heard quite a bit of stories over the years. So.
Well, thanks for mentioning about the fundraising dinners, because that would be something we would be thinking about in the future of some kind of way. Probably, I would think a dinner that would be similar to what St. Anthony's has done. So each year that Father Frank and Père Jose have been up to visit, there would be a fundraising dinner, and obviously chance to hear the story about how things are going down at St. Anthony's, or St. Anne's, I should say, and make those connections again. As you were saying, Father Frank, it is about accompaniment and also relationship building.
Archbishop Mio, who was killed in the earthquake, used to say, if it's just your money, we don't want it. It's relationship.
Yeah. So again, we just hope that you'll be able to join us on Monday night, either online or in person. It'll be in the parish hall, but you'll have a chance to hear even more about this exciting project. And Father Tom will be there too, so we'll really look forward to that. So, Father Frank, we always conclude with a blessing. Would you mind doing that in Creole?
Creole.
Yeah.
Gramet la avec nous tous. The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
Bon Dieu qui gagne tout pouvoir. Papa, à petit la, avec l'Esprit Seigneur, bénis-nous bien bénis.
Amen.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And I hope you have a great week. Take care.
Bye.
Kansas advanced, by the way, if you folks are catching the finals. And last I saw, Duke is up 3 points on North Carolina.
All right. Have a great week, everyone.
Take care.